Hello, APSAadians. Welcome to episode 2 of my podcast, Act Up, which stands for April's Conversation Time. I am April Joy Puyumo, your 2020-2021 political coordinator. I am a third-year double majoring in political science and communications. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And this week's topic, we will be talking about mental health. And we have 3 lovely guests, some board members, close friends of mine here to talk to me about this topic. We're going to have each of them introduce themselves. Deanna, you go first.
Hi, my name is Deanna McPauley. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a second-year psychology major, and I'm APSA's membership secretary.
Hi, I'm Barry. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a second-year music recording technology and audio design major, and I'm this year's academic co-coordinator.
And hello, everybody. My name is Xavier Major. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a second-year mechanical engineer here at State, and I'm the other academic co-coordinator for APSA this year.
Yes, we have Excalibur duo up in here. Okay, here with their little hand signals. I got it. I like the vision. Okay, so my first question for all of you is, why did you pick this podcast, or like why did you show interest in this topic for the podcast? Because I gave. Some of you don't know this, for those of you watching, but I actually give like options as to like what my guests want to talk about. And these lovely people right here all said that they were interested in talking about mental health. So yeah, just why did you think that mental health was something that you wanted to talk about with the people? Anybody can go.
I can go if anyone else wants to go. Okay. Well, for me personally, I think mental health as I got older played more of a role in like around me, like in my environment. Like I noticed some of my close friends and family actually, like maybe they didn't know it, but I started to notice like more mental health struggles, and they probably just like wouldn't share it. And I wanted to like educate myself more about it so I could possibly like help them and give them resources on it. And plus in high school, like I was in this program called peer mediation, and through that I was actually licensed to become a mental health first aid responder, and I'm still currently licensed technically. I'm not any professional or expert, but it just I was able to educate myself more in that area, and I just wanted to keep working on that. And that's why I wanted to be able to share, at least from my own experience. None of my experiences are absolute, but to put my 2 cents in this podcast.
That's really interesting. I didn't know at all that you were like licensed for that. And I didn't realize that they offered that in high school. It's like pretty cool. Xavier or Barry?
You go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Barry. So why did I choose this podcast? Well, so as a kid, I was relatively happy. I didn't experience a lot of like sad emotions, but I saw a lot of people around me experiencing these like emotions, and I was like, why? I don't understand, because I didn't understand, and now know that it's a very important topic that people like me need to be educated in case, so I can help others. Like I don't want to stand by the side and be like, oh, this dude's sad. I'm gonna be like, oh, don't be sad. You'll get better. It's like that's not the right approach. And if I want to help people, like kind of like Deanna, I'd have to get more or become educated and understand it a little bit more myself. And so coming on this podcast was a very interesting opportunity for me.
I like that. You just want to help people. Barry?
Yeah, I think mostly same here with me. As a kid, I didn't really, or like throughout my whole life, pretty much, like I haven't really struggled that much with mental health, but yeah, I've seen people like around me, like friends, a little bit of family, struggle with it, and I also want to educate myself on it and find a way to help people and yeah, just give them that extra boost that they might need.
I like how all of you mentioned wanting to help like family members or just like friends and stuff, because I have a couple of studies here that I would like to show y'all, or like some information that I would like to tell you about. So I actually found this study that was conducted in 2007 as part of the Health Needs Assessment Project, which focused on Asian Americans between the ages of 18 and 30. And these respondents reported several common sources of stress, such as peer pressure, or not peer pressure, pressure to live up to the model minority myth, taboo within your own culture, parental pressure to succeed in academics, family obligations based on strong traditional cultural values, discrimination due to racial or cultural background, and difficulty in balancing two different cultures and developing a bicultural sense of self. So in response to this information that I just gave you, how closely would you say that these sources of stress mirror your own struggles or the struggles that you've seen in like your friends and family? Do you want me to go?
It mirrors them a lot. Oh.
You can go with Xavier.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say that everything you said, like either I've experienced or I've seen, probably more seen than anything. But like, hold on, I'm having a not good brain moment right now. Somebody please.
It's okay. I can take it. But at least for me personally, I think that the biggest ones that I have seen are like model minority, which I will be talking about in a different podcast. Y'all keep out for that. Family obligations based on strong traditional / cultural values, and also like the difficulty in balancing two different cultures and developing a bicultural sense of self, because I feel like it's very hard, especially for Asian Americans, more particularly like young Asian Americans like us, who, you know, a lot of us are like generation like second gen or like 1.5, you know, where our parents, like typically they have like a different experience when it comes to like their identity. Like they grew up in a different time, and just like the cultural values shift so drastically. And I think that part of the problem, at least in my experience, is that like there's a huge divide between the way that like Asians themselves tackle the issue of mental health versus like Americans. Because in America, like they're obviously like nothing's perfect, and a lot of Americans, you know, even here, like there is a stigma towards mental health. But I feel like at least with Asian culture, there is a lot of like disregard for it, or not really disregard, but even just like it's just like a taboo topic that we just don't like to talk about because it's a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, that's at least how I feel about it. Deanna, like, do you think that it's something that we need to talk more about since you're a psychology major?
Well, again, like, even though, yes, I'm a psychology major, and also I wanted to correct myself from earlier. I'm not like licensed. The proper word is certified. Sorry, because of the class. Not licensed. That I'm not a professional. I want to clarify that again. But even in those workshops that I did attend for training, yeah, they did include how culture can affect your mental health, and like stigmas around mental health, like just even more specifically in AAPI culture, they're taught to maybe just keep it to yourself, or it's just gonna pass, it's a phase, it's nothing that deep. But that just further suppresses your openness to be vulnerable and share your struggles. And I agree that like I've seen mostly just taboo, like mental health itself can be considered a taboo in API culture, because they think like, oh, you're just saying that for attention, or you're trying to make up stories and you're gonna make yourself think that you're quote quote crazy, which is really invalidating to people who are really struggling. And it all goes into like a greater like span and stigma, or just the environment you grew up in. It can be either your ethnic culture, your heritage culture, or just even the culture in your household, you know. And I do think it's good to include that.
The way that like culture, like the intersectionality between like the American, like our American upbringing and like the way our culture impacts that is very it's very impactful, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, yeah. I think emphasis in like the API community on like mental health. I think it's also like I'm not that much actually. Yeah, I've like throughout the years I feel like I've grown to be more passionate about it because I've seen it happen to like my parents, because I'm not my parents were actually born here in America, and they've experienced more of like Filipino culture, and I think that there's a lot of like if you're like vulnerable, I don't want to like, this is not like a stereotype or anything, but like uh it's like seen, if you're vulnerable, it's like seen as being like weak, and like usually the solution is to like oh just pray, like just go to church or something, and that's usually how they
Right.
respond to those types of issues with like mental health. And yeah, I think
I like how you mentioned the whole like just pray thing, because I feel like that's something, at least for a lot of people like within my own culture, because I'm Filipino American. A lot of Filipinos are Catholic, or at least like they're very like spiritual and religious, and so there's this idea that if you can heal something through like homeopathic, or like they'll be like, oh yeah, just like we're gonna give you like a Vicks like sauna or something, and you'll feel better afterwards. If you're feeling bad right now, we're gonna help you, and just we're gonna do something. And like that's not to say that like it doesn't make you like, to me that like constitutes like self-care, which like definitely helps your mental state. But personally, I think there is nothing wrong with seeking out professional help. I think it's something that we need to talk about more. And there's nothing wrong with like wanting to get, what is it, like wanting to go to a therapist, or like even a psychiatrist. I'm not sure if it's like the correct, but like wanting to get professional help, or even like getting things like mood stabilizers or antidepressants. I think those should be more normalized, because there's a stigma around it, and people are like, oh, I don't want to feel like I have this crutch. But honestly, it's scientifically proven that some mental illnesses are a product of like biological, like chemical imbalances. So I think that like that's something that we should just be more aware of and be more open to accepting. With that, I want to ask, have any of y'all ever struggled with mental health, or is it something that you still struggle with? I can go first. Yeah? Okay. So a lot of people assume that because of my personality, because I'm very outgoing, that I'm like pretty, they'll assume, oh, she's normal, or they'll be like, oh, she's just very upbeat and happy, just because like I'm not one to like shy away from people. Also, I'm not an introvert. I feel like that impacts the way that people like view mental illnesses a lot. They assume that like the only type of people with mental illnesses are the type that are like, very quiet. They don't want to associate with people. At least for me, I do struggle a little bit with anxiety. And it's something that I just have to be aware of when I'm talking to people. I've had to like set boundaries. I've had to tell my friends like, hey, like if I ask you for reassurance for something, I'm not doing it because I think like, because I'm being crazy, quote unquote. I'm doing it because I need to do that for the sake of my own mental health. And I need to know like whether or not these things are happening, because, you know, people with mental, like with like struggles with mental health, it impacts you in ways that you don't think about really. And then you know, even with like just your friends and stuff, you have to be more aware of like the way that you interact with them. So at least that's how I do it. And then I cope with it by like, you know, just talking to my friends, having open conversation with them, letting them know if like my boundaries are being pushed. And yeah. What about y'all?
Me personally, I've never been like diagnosed with like depression or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
there were like some moments I feel like in my life where I feel like where I've hit like a really low point. But other than that, um, I think most of like my mental health issues is like with stress or like loneliness. But like that's it.
Okay, you say that like, okay, you cope with like stress. You are a music major, correct?
Yep.
So do you think that music was like an outlet for you to like put your this like energy into when you were feeling overwhelmed?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think yeah, that's like an important. Yeah, yeah. Music was definitely like something that an outlet for me to express myself. Yeah, and on that like I think that just like um
Keeping
I,
busy?
yeah, or doing some it was like because music I love music, so like yeah, it really helps me yeah, like get through like some tough times. But yeah, I feel like it's really important to do whatever you love, or like remind yourself of like what you enjoy about life.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. Xavier, Deanna?
Um, for me, I'm similar to Barry. I haven't experienced long bouts of anything insanely serious. I mean, everybody has emotions. They feel down at times. That's not necessarily a mental illness, but I have had points where I've like physically felt ill, and I feel like it was connected to my emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
And the one time that happened, I did reach out. I reached out to my mom. I was like, I was talking. I just said I sat outside more. I thought it was during the quarantine. I was like, man, maybe I haven't been outside enough. Like I need to be in the sun more. And like that's a real issue that some people in like darker places, like physically, like when there's less light outside, they have to like take like supplements. Anyways, so the one time I experienced something like that, I reached out, and it took and it was hard, but at the same time, because I had like people around me spreading awareness, I was aware that like it's not a cowardly thing to do to get help. I was trying to like yeah, I just took the step to seek out help. And other than that, are we gonna go into coping right now, or did you?
I mean, we
like,
could if you want to. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say that for me, coping, like I said last podcast, actually, I do jujitsu, and that helps because it's a physical stress reliever, and then like I get to work out whatever I'm dealing with. So that's pretty much it for me.
Deanna?
Well, um yeah, I've never personally, again, like similar to the guys, I haven't personally felt any like mental like like disabling things like diagnosed or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, my emotional state was, it could be down for like periods of time, but I'm blessed that at least with the mental states that I am in, I can help other people around me who do have diagnosed mental health conditions. And at least when my emotional state is down and I feel that I'm I'm not able to be a support
Be
system
there?
for other people, I can still get support from other people, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like
That
even if you can't yourself like be there for other people, you have these other people there to support you when, you know, like it's just like one of those things where it's like a give and take scenario, right?
right. Yeah, but I still have other things like with Barry, like sometimes I wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'm gonna play my guitar softly now and maybe cry.
Aww.
And it's okay to cry because it's a
Soft girl
healthy
things.
outlet. Just anyone thinks anybody can cry. break the stigma of crying, you know? You can have
Yes, break the stigma of crying. Crying is totally normal. Big girls do cry, but also boys. Let's get them.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's
That's right.
fine. Shed a tear for your homies.
You gotta let it out.
Yeah.
You gotta let it out. Just like, you know, shed a tear, like the Kim Jong song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on the next part of this podcast topic that I would like to talk about, Barry, in our last GBM, you talked about emotional agility in your roar. Can you briefly summarize what like emotional agility entails and how it might, you know, impact your own mental health?
Okay. So the reason why I chose that topic for my roar during GBM is that there's this video that I didn't come across it. My friend showed it to me because when I was having like a really deep conversation with him, like about, you know, like quarantine and like everything going on back then at the beginning of this year, he showed me that video and it was really helpful to me. And so overall emotional agility, um, it's really like an acceptance of your emotions, and like it's about well, on the surface it's more about like being resilient or like bouncing back from like tough situations quickly, but like the way that um like the method to emotional agility is really acceptance of emotions and being, you know, accurate about like how you really feel inside, and, you know, like just acknowledging like yourself and your feelings. And uh it's also about like it's like it's taking the emotion that you're feeling, and it's you're acknowledging it, and you're kind of like observing it, and like, because, you know, emotions, it could really like tell, like they're kind of like data sources, you know. They could tell a lot about yourself. and and emotional agility, it's like, yeah, it's about like acceptance of emotions, being accurate about it, and, you know, just acknowledging that uh yeah. And it also shows how like the it breaks, like, you know, because we have like there's like good emotions and like bad emotions, you know. And it just really shows that the bad emotions, they're like as valuable as the good ones, you know. Like you can't, and what I'm trying to say is uh like you can't just like push the bad ones away. You gotta like take them in, you know, and like analyze yourself so you could like take the right steps for like healing. Yeah.
So like take the emotion, acknowledge that it's there,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, work towards moving past it.
Yes.
Sort of thing. I think that's
a lot of Inside Out.
Yeah.
the way that we also kind of like mimic the characters from Inside Out right now.
I'm the green bean dude.
All right.
Tag yourself, Inside Out edition. I am sadness. I'm sadness, even though I am also joy. Take her to the moon for me. Okay. There's another study that I would like to talk about with y'all. I found one on, I think it was Psychiatry Online or APA.org, but it said that Pacific Islanders are a growing population within the United States, and little is known about their demographics, physical health status, but even less is known about their current mental health status. So in this study, they found that Pacific Islander participants reported high levels of depression, anxiety, and alcohol abuse. And I just, none of us here on the pod today identify as Pacific Islanders, because we're all like some variant of like Filipino American, except for Xavier here, who is also part Japanese. But but I'm just wondering, like, why do y'all think that the Pacific Islander statistics regarding mental health are so scarce?
Can I touch on that?
Yeah.
Well, I think, okay, so AAPI itself is already a bunch of diverse
Minority
cultures
groups.
that have just been smushed together. And
Mm-hmm.
then you take this subgroup, which is the Pacific Islanders, and there's so many different islands. Like, it's not just Hawaii and Samoa. It's like there's so many different islands in their own culture within another smushed up culture that maybe they've become overlooked. And it could also be, again, like stigmas and culture is affecting their willingness to report their mental health conditions and be just overall like willing to say that I have these struggles that I'm dealing with. And it could be all of those things playing into the fact that they can't share all of their experiences because they've just been like in this smaller subset of people, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that, at least with our board, we also want, um, we want to bring more attention to this issue, because we are APSA, we are the Asian Pacific Student Alliance, and majority of our members are, Asian, and we would like to bring more recognition and acknowledgement towards the Pacific Islander community. So, I would just like to say that, it's a topic that mental health in general is a topic that we overlook a lot of the times. And I think that we should also acknowledge that our struggles or like, at least for me, like my struggle as like an Asian American is different than a Pacific Islander struggle. And I think that dynamic is something that we shouldn't, we should be more aware of going forward, like in the future. Like, there's a lot of like disparity when it comes to like research and stuff about, our communities, and like whether or not that is a product of like our culture, because like a lot of the times the idea is that like Asian Americans or like even Pacific Islanders, like we tend to be the stereotype is like we tend to be sort of conservative and a bit more modest, like we don't like to show our feelings. And it's something that I would like to see change in the future, because with the world that we live in today, especially now, like with quarantine and stuff, it's difficult to get these resources. So we should be talking about it more, because it's not something that should be easily overlooked. Last point that I want to touch on, or like for like questions, from your perspective, how do you think that our community like tackles mental health issues, and like what would you like to see change in the future?
Well, I would like to go,
Yes, Xavier.
if I may. Well, I mean, the first step is just acknowledging that it's there. A lot of people are like,
Yes.
what? If I can't see the physical problem, like it doesn't exist, you just, like she said, pray it away. Like it's just, if it's of the mind, so you can't like figure out ways to solve that. And I think that we just need to, one, talk about it more and make that become more normal, so that others are forced to acknowledge that it exists, and that some people aren't just being like dramatic for no reason, or they're like, yeah. I think that, and then I used to think this way. When I didn't understand, I was like, it's just gonna go away, and then that's a horrible thing to think. Little did I know that, like, I didn't really say that to people. I didn't say, oh, just stop being like that. But if I felt that way with like a neutral stance, I can see how it's a lot worse with people with like parents, or like just people that don't understand. They're like, just grow up kind of thing. And so I think we just need to say that it exists and then start educating people next, after the first step, though, of course.
I agree with that. Anybody else? Gary or Deanna?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the whole acknowledging it first and like raising awareness about it. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
I have another point to add.
Okay.
Okay. So that's that step, but something that like that's as like a society, but on an individual scale, you can just offer yourself to be there for people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, and people should just acknowledge that, like, we do have our support systems, we have our friends, but there is no real substitute for like professional help. So even if your friends, they aren't like licensed or anything, like as like a therapist, like they're not there to give you advice that's like, oh, this is how you should be feeling, like, especially because like they are your friends, they do have like a bias towards you. So they're there to help you and support you and love you and accept you for who you are, but you should also just be like in general, like people should just be more willing to seek out help when they need it, and professional help is nothing to be ashamed about. With that, I'm just going to go over a few like points that I would like for our lovely viewers to take away from this podcast. Is that obviously we've said it again, like we've probably said it like hundreds of times before, but we said it like tons of times in this podcast alone. Mental health should be taken more seriously. You aren't different or weird for feeling a certain way. Your feelings are valid because they are yours. People can't tell you whether or not your feelings are warranted. The word crazy is not, it's not something that should just be thrown around. If you're feeling a certain way, you should speak up and say, hey, this is not the way that I would like to be treated, and it's not good for my mental health. Check in on your friends. Even just talking to them, talking makes a difference, especially now when we have like limited contact with everyone. I think that just reaching out, checking in, being like, hey bud, are you doing all right? You see them a little sad, see their Spotify activity at 3 a.m. and they're playing the Simp songs. Yes, I am adding myself, but it's fine. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with needing professional help. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. So with that, I would like to just say, you can, at least for SDSU students, you can visit CAPS. I know they're doing like online resources and stuff. So I will be plugging the CAPS website down below in the description. And yeah, is there anything that our lovely guests would like to plug for the end of this podcast?
Y'all can go first.
Go ahead, Xavier.
Yeah, go.
Me?
You.
Yeah.
Oh,
He said you.
oh, okay. Well, just to clarify, CAPS is Counseling and Psychological Services. And for me, as membership secretary, please sign up for APSA's newsletter to get your recent weekly updates and put your dirt in the jar for me so I could start on my personal segment.
Oh, yeah. And on behalf of the
Okay.
Excalibur duo, Barry and I,
Oh yeah.
from the study sessions.
Heck yeah.
When? Tell
Excalibur
them when.
duo.
Tell them when.
Wednesdays 12 to 1:30. We got music.
We got the lo-fi beats.
Yeah, we got the lo-fi beats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Song requests, and we're chill. So.
Can I get a yeah in the chat for mental health?
Yeah.
Oh,
We don't
my.
bite. Yeah.
For those of y'all that don't know, yeah is from light mode. So if you want to, you can check that out.
Yeah,
Stream light
absolutely.
mode. It's on our main YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Just a reminder: mask up, drink some water. If you have meds, take your meds. Stay healthy, have fun, enjoy your day. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Act Up, because we all gotta act up sometime, baby. Bye.
Bye.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe in the description, and tell us what you want to hear.